Let's go to Charlotte's question. She wrote this on Facebook. She said, I've been concerned that a hurricane would bring the oil further into Mississippi, but that's not the case. The oil is being brought to our land by trucks dumping in landfills. Why are they doing this? And Margaret, I know you're on the hot seat being with BP, but what have you heard? I mean, why does it have to go to our local landfills, adding insult to injury?
Well, first of all, we would prefer that none of the oil makes it to shore. Some of it has, and we need to make sure that that's managed properly. So what we have done is that we've contracted with Waste Management, which this company is expert in handling various kinds of waste and are prepared to handle any kind of waste. And we're working closely with state agencies, and state agencies are closely monitoring and testing all of the material to ensure that it is handled properly, and the waste management and the disposal of it is also handled well.
I think the toxicity is what people are concerned about. You see these people on the beach, they even have hard hats and masks and have to take hazmat classes, but yet we're hearing it's not toxic.
Well, again, most of the toxicity is usually eliminated as this oil weathers and is broken down as it comes to shore. The testing is being handled all the way through the process. Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality has been monitoring it closely, working with Waste Management to ensure that everything is handled properly and safely according to the law. And we are following also the EPA and the Coast Guard directives on this as well.
Okay. We want to get to more questions. Janet posted this question. Why are 40 workers sitting in an air-conditioned bus for 5 hours a day, and there are 25 bus loads of them all across the coast? By the time they get their tents set up, it's lunchtime. Then they have to take them down before they leave, only picking up debris for 2 to 3 hours a day. Wasteful, she says. BP will be out of money if they keep wasting money like this. Now, I don't know if this is entirely true. This is just one person's observation. Do you think that we have heard that BP is a huge enough and a viable enough company that you will not run out of money? We have a strong foundation financially as a company, and we are doing everything to make sure that we're able to maintain that position. I'm very confident that BP will be here, and we are committed to doing everything that's necessary so that we will so that we will be able to clean up the oil till the end,
and restore the environment, and to pay the claims for people who have legitimate claims. Make sure that we manage and compensate them for their losses.
And speaking of the environment, let's go to Dr. Vernon Asper. Doctor, you were one of the first to find the actual plumes of oil, I believe, in the Sound. When you see the marsh and the habitat being affected, is this something that will be forever, for 20 years, for 10 years, now that it's in our food chain, or is there really no way of knowing?
Well, we're optimistic that it's going to be removed from the food chain before 20 years, but it's definitely going to be at least a few years. Once the oil gets up into the marsh, it's a problem. It's very, very difficult to clean it out of the marsh. On the sand beach, you can just scoop it up, but in the marsh, it's so sticky that getting it off the marsh grass is a real problem. And that's one of the things about these plumes that we've been documenting, is that oil is way down below the surface of the ocean, about 3,000 feet down. And that oil is not going to get into the marshes. It should stay right where it is and not pose a problem like that. So while we're not thrilled about this oil being put down into the deep ocean, it's at least presumably better than getting it up in the marshes.
What do you think about the bacteria, the microbes that they were saying can actually naturally eat the oil from the water? Is that true?
It is. In the deep ocean, it's very true. There are actually whole communities of organisms that live on the bottom of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico that are there doing what they do because there are natural oil and gas seeps. It's actually kind of an amazing thing to see. If you're in a submarine and you're driving along on the bottom of the ocean, you get near one of these sites, the community, instead of just being mud, starts to become clams and bacterial mats and sometimes some hard corals and tube worms and all kinds of things. All of that exists just because of these natural gas and oil seeps. The point is that this petroleum is not a foreign substance in the Gulf of Mexico. Granted, with this much coming out at one spot at one time, things are being overwhelmed. But we are at least optimistic that these ecosystems will be able to deal with the oil in the deep sea.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Congressman, you spoke to the President. You've spoken to him several times. What does he say? Have you asked him directly about the criticism that they didn't ask for skimmers sooner, that they didn't accept international help, that it seems like everything is behind the ball? What does he say about that?
Well, obviously express the frustration of everybody. There has been a company in place called Marine Spill Recovery Corporation for 20 years. For 20 years, they have been paid to be ready for something like this, and obviously they weren't. So that ought to be the first outrage. That company was stood up in the aftermath of the Oil Pollution Act of 1990. They've been getting paid. The boats were there. The people were allegedly trained. Where the heck are they? The second frustration is there's been a lot of misinformation as to whether or not the Jones Act prevented foreign flag vessels from coming in. That is not true. There was an exemption in the Oil Pollution Act of 1990 that said that the Jones Act was waived in an emergency like this, so that has never held anything up.
You mean like the skimmers from Taiwan?
That's correct.
Okay.
What has held things up is the Coast Guard has rightly tried to determine which of them are the most effective. Just as you have a more effective cordless drill, a more effective lawnmower, within the world of skimmers, some of them are really great. Some of them are junk. And so the Coast Guard has been trying to encourage BP to buy the ones that are great, trying to weed out the ones that aren't so hot. You know, I had a meeting with a high-level BP rep just last night, and he says, you know, as much as this guy from Taiwan has tried with the whale, he doesn't think it's very effective at all. So, again, we're grateful that the guy was willing to try. Unfortunately, the results are very dismal with the whale so far.
It seems like with the $20 billion in escrow, BP does seem to be bending over backwards to pay for most of what people are asking, but we have local officials saying that it's always a little too late. What's the problem in communication?
And again, the commander and I have spent a great deal of time together the past couple weeks, and one of the conversations we had today with the BP rep was that, look, he's in charge. When he is going to not send you any fraudulent bills, when he gives you a bill, you pay it. You pay it right now.
Let's head to Jackson County. Donald Langham, if you don't mind me asking, what has your personal experience been? Is it like after Katrina, you're up all night, or is it you ask for stuff and it doesn't get there?
We have been looking at this since this started. We were told things that would happen that didn't happen on the timeline that we were told. So that's how we're looking at it. Things didn't happen as they were supposed to happen. Resources were not in place that were supposed to be in place. So now we're where we are now at 3 months, almost 3 months later.
And tell me about the Pascagoula beaches. Y'all spent millions and millions to make them more beautiful recently. And what have you seen? I haven't been out there. I know we've had video, but what have you seen?
All of the beaches in Jackson County have had some sort of impact. Everything from the Alabama state line westward through Ocean Springs all have had impact of some type.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we urge everyone to stay with us. More questions from you and more from the experts on the coastal crisis. Stay with us.